Let's turn our attention to this breaking news in the last hour or so that the EU has launched fresh legal action against the UK. This is with regard to the Northern Ireland Protocol, of course. But what exactly is the EU now looking to sue the UK over? Well, 4 specific areas. These are in addition to 2 areas that were launched last month. Firstly, the EU is saying that the UK is failing to comply with customs, supervision and risk control checks. That, they say, that increases the risk of smuggling between the UK and the EU. And secondly, well, we can bunch the next 3 together, really. The EU say the UK is failing to follow EU rules or implement new EU rules with regard to Northern Ireland on excise duties, on duties on alcohol and on EU VAT e-commerce rules. So those are 3 further areas that the EU says has a fiscal risk to the EU. 4 areas in total there that the EU is now looking to sue the UK over. The UK has 2 months to respond to the EU over this. So in the first couple of weeks that we have a new Prime Minister, this will be a fairly hefty thing in their in-tray. Of course, last month, the EU started to sue the UK over SPS rules and trade statistics data too. So in total, that's 6 areas that the EU is suing the UK over. However, have a look at this. This is the single market scoreboard, the EU's own scoreboard in terms of what EU member states are doing, how well they are complying with the EU's own rules. And I have to tell you that it's not 6 legal actions that the EU is taking against its own member states, like it is taking against the UK. It's 837 pending infringement cases against the EU's own member states. Those watching on television can see the countries in the red are doing the worst there. That includes Germany, Spain, Italy, France. And the countries in the green are the ones doing the best. That includes Croatia and Denmark. But clearly there, it's not just the UK that might not be following every jot and tittle of EU regulation. Well, I'm delighted now to be joined by the Conservative MP, Andrew Mitchell. He's here to talk about his backing for Rishi Sunak, of course, in this leadership race. But first of all, I would just like to get your reaction there, Andrew Mitchell, to the news that the EU is launching proceedings against the UK.
Well, good afternoon, Tom. I'm dismayed to hear this. I do think that the EU have been really quite unhelpful over the issue of Northern Ireland and the protocol, and that the programme that the British government put forward of red and green routes through customs issues was the right approach. And I'm very dismayed indeed that it has now come to a legal case. I didn't support the protocol bill in the House of Commons last week. And that was because I think there's some blame also on the British government on this. We should not have signed up to a set of agreements which we now intend to break. And the last thing we want is a trade war with the EU, particularly with our greatest ally and trading partner, the United States, on the other side. So I think there is right and wrong on both sides, and the absolute requirement is to negotiate our way out of this, to negotiate with goodwill in the best possible way.
Well, it'll be really, really interesting to see what the next Prime Minister, whoever he or she may be, does with this. Of course, 2 months, that deadline takes us to about the 2nd week in office of that new Prime Minister. But let's get on to the question of who that new Prime Minister should be. Andrew Mitchell, why are you backing the former Chancellor Rishi Sunak?
I think that both Liz and Rishi, who I know well and like and respect, are extremely strong candidates. But given the set of crises that we now face, that is the crisis on the cost of living, it's a crisis on the economy where we don't have growth in our economy, and it's also the crisis in Europe. I think that Rishi is best placed to lead our country. Why do I say that? It's partly an issue of character, and it's partly an issue of experience. He has, after all, been at the helm of our economy through incredibly difficult times. And of all the finance ministers around the developed world, he most quickly developed and implemented the scheme which, after all, was responsible for helping save something like 1.5 million businesses, 12 million jobs in the United Kingdom. His skill and experience as a Chancellor, in my view, marks him out as the person to take us through these extremely difficult times. And when I talk to people in the royal town of Sutton Coldfield, my constituency, particularly our members, many of whom are a bit older, they worry very much about the mortgages of their children, their pensions, the financial circumstances in which our country finds itself. And I think we need the safe helmsman at the helm in charting our way through these very difficult circumstances.
No, I think no one, least of all Conservative members, would denigrate the role he played during the pandemic. Clearly, furlough was an enormous success, and the speed that was rolled out was nothing short of heroic. But a number of people might raise an eyebrow in terms of the conduct of Rishi Sunak sort of after that peak pandemic period, because, of course, it was this year that national insurance was raised, costing ordinary households hundreds of extra pounds. And indeed, next year, the former Chancellor Rishi Sunak plans to raise corporation tax from 19 to 25%. Could those tax-raising policies potentially be why the Conservative membership seems to favour Liz Truss at this point, according to the polls?
Well, I think our membership is, if I may say so, quite Thatcherite. And it's very noticeable that Mrs Thatcher did not cut taxes when the deficit was very high, when borrowing was very high. She taught the importance of good housekeeping, and she did cut taxes later on once she'd sorted out the economy. And I think Rishi makes a very strong case when he says that he wants to cut tax, but in the meanwhile, he has to get the issues to do with borrowing and debt right, and he doesn't want to cut tax at the moment. And actually, on the national insurance rise that was announced earlier this year, I think that Boris and Rishi got that one right. We have to tackle this care of the elderly issue, social care. And after many, many years, they were the first Prime Minister and Chancellor together to come up with a plan that actually tackled a problem that other governments have shied away from. So I supported the increase in the national insurance charge. I know it's difficult, but I think it is necessary to give reassurance that there really is a plan to deal with the issue of care and social care.
Now, we all know that this country is sailing into the schools next year. We will have the lowest growth in the G20 other than Russia, a flat zero. Why is the person to get us out of that problem the person who had his hand on the tiller sailing us towards that problem?
Well, I don't think that problem has been down to Rishi. I think that all countries have faced very significant difficulties as a result of the pandemic and as a result, too, of the war over Ukraine in Europe. The question is now, who is likely to be the Prime Minister who will lead our economy in such a way that we get growth back into it, which is absolutely vital. And I think that Rishi's instincts, as someone who wants to cut tax, but wants also to make sure that the economy is set fair to reach the point where we can cut taxes, that's the right person to have at the helm.
Well, Andrew Mitchell, it has been a really interesting conversation there. No doubt we'll be hearing a lot more of these arguments over the next month or so. But for now, thank you so much for joining us on The Briefing this afternoon. We really appreciate your time.